I got started on iDialogs at the suggestion of my diabetologist, Dr. Perillo at the Bull Family Diabetes Center. Well, the biggest thing was that I had always written down my blood glucoses whenever I measured them, and I put the time down, and I did it on a piece of paper, and then I put it in a spreadsheet so I could look at trends and things like that. And this eliminated that whole process. I use it. I use iDialogs every time I measure my blood glucose. So I take my blood glucose and then I open iDialogs on my iPhone, and I put the number in. And it gives me a place to put in, like sometimes when my glucose is say 300, I know it's because I stopped at Bill's Donuts and bought something I probably shouldn't have bought, but at least I can put that in so I know what's going on. I think just the ease of use, it allows me to put the number in. It sends me little reminders if you're supposed to have entered a blood glucose and you haven't. So it works easily for me. Being able to look at the trends, I went through some other health problems and made it difficult to keep my blood glucose under control. And so I talked to Dr. Perillo, and he was able to look at my information on the server and gave me some advice on what to do to help with that. Well, it's just made it easier to record something I was already doing. And I look at the trends and see where things are, because even though you know what you're supposed to eat and what you're not, I've never been real good at keeping track of carbs or doing things like that. And so by looking at what's going on, and I put flags in when something happens, and so then I can go back and see what those flags are, and that lets me be better. I've used them to indicate changes in my chemotherapy when I was on chemotherapy. I've used them to report myself when I've been not good. There's some places you go that the bread is really good if you go out to eat, and I know I probably shouldn't eat 3 rolls, but I do it anyway. I mean, iDialogs has made it easier for me to review what I've done and to make changes. I use the flags. I put them in when I was undergoing chemotherapy, so when there were changes in my chemotherapy, I put that in. I also put in report myself, I guess is the best way I can think of it, is that there's some places that have really great hot rolls that they bring out to the table, and I shouldn't eat 2 or 3, but I sometimes do. And so I can put that in, and at least when Dr. Perillo looks at it, he knows that it's not something he's doing wrong. It's something I'm doing wrong. Well, my interactions with Dr. Perillo have changed by the fact that he now knows in between appointments. Previously, he'd only know if I came to an appointment, he would download the data from my glucose meter, and then that would then he could talk to me about it, look at it, and see what my values were. Now, and this was especially true during my chemotherapy, he could go to the server, look at my values, or I could send him a note saying things aren't working well, and then he'd send me an email. So that's the major difference. I would, especially I happen to know someone who doesn't bother recording their glucoses at all, and I know has had at least 2 or 3 episodes that I've heard about, and I've not ever observed them, where they clearly had either hypoglycemia or hyperglycemia from the symptoms that they described. And I think if they had used iDialogs, they would have known about it in advance. Another thing that's happened is that iDialogs has continually updated. I don't mean every day, but periodically you get an update, and when you get those, they've taken some of the suggestions, at least some of them that I've made, and put them into the app so that it works more efficiently. Boy, can I give you a specific suggestion? I don't know where some of them came from me necessarily. I just know that it is improved. Like the tasks arrangement now works better. You still look to see what things you've missed, and so that's one of the examples that I can think of. And I think I talked to him about that, although I'm not sure. Because usually I do that by sending emails, and I can't even review those because as most people know, every time you take a chance when you update your iPhone, I updated my iPhone and lost a lot of stuff.